Hi there, my name is Sarah Waldvogel, and I'm not really sure if this is something, or if I'm completing this properly. However, I'm going to give it a whirl, seeing as how I waited till the last day to post this. So, what I'm going to be doing as a group facilitation is I'm actually going to be running a group. My group will consist of a group of members who all work in some way, shape, or form with the Department of Corrections. The type of my group is going to be a task. It's going to be about 20 minutes long, and the objective here is to create an outline for future monthly meetings to create awareness of differences amongst the diverse and multicultural inmate population in the state of Wisconsin prison system. The first thing that I think is very important as a group is to have some sort of an icebreaker. Everybody gets to know one another type of thing. So I will start with myself. I'm going to say this is not a traditional group that I'm going to be running. After talking with you, Rachel, I don't have many people to get together and do this sort of thing. I work lots of overtime and don't really have a whole lot of time to do that sort of thing. So I'm going to pretend like I'm running a group and give as much information as I can, describe some different situations and the different types of conversations that I would like to see happen in the group that I'm running. So first, my name is Sarah Waldvogel. I currently work with the Department of Corrections and has been working for the state for about 9.5 years. Most of them have been with the Department of Corrections, either in the Division of Community Corrections, which is probation and parole, or in the actual prison system. I worked probation and parole for 5 years in Lake County. I had first-hand contact with new offenders being placed on probation straight after being sentenced in court. I worked closely with the 5 agents in my office, working out of other offices as well. So I got to see firsthand the different types of people in the community that would come to the offices, and different types of needs that were not met in the community, which would have benefited from those offenders. I currently work at Dodge Correctional Institution in the intake section, in the little records office that we have down there in intake. Dodge Correctional is a reception prison for the state of Wisconsin. Every male offender who gets sentenced to prison in the state of Wisconsin has to go through Dodge first for classification and intake. When I start talking about the subject, getting into the subject part of it, I'll go through a little bit of the system and how it works, and explain how I can see some of the information being beneficial to gather there. At this time, I would ask my group members to go around in a circle. We'd all be sitting kind of a horseshoe, U-shape, circle shape, whatever. Kind of introduce themselves and to state their expertise in working with criminals or offenders and the different backgrounds or the diverse backgrounds in the Department of Correctional settings that they have. When screening for members of this group, I would probably ask a number of different people, say a gang coordinator, somebody who works closely with the gangs in the institutions. I would ask somebody who's a probation and parole officer or who has background of being a probation and parole officer, as they're the people who work in the community on a daily basis with the people who are released from parole, kind of see what their day-to-day life activities are, the recidivism that there is out there when it comes to those of different diverse backgrounds, and are they constantly reoffending and being, put back into the institution. It would probably be helpful to have somebody in law enforcement as well on the panel to discuss just those things on the outside. In our community, in the surrounding communities that seem to be an issue, whether it be drugs, what are the hot topic drugs at that time, what's something that we need to be looking for in the institution, drugs versus gangs, that sort of thing. I'd also like to have somebody who is a captain or a sergeant in the institution, somebody who's been on the floor in the housing units with the inmates, who see them in their living quarters in the institution on a day-to-day basis. What does it look like when the gangs are together? What does it look like when, you know, a group of African Americans are collaborating and trying to single out somebody who is of Hmong descent, that sort of thing. Get their background, get their knowledge. And that's kind of how the screening process goes. Once we get done with our introductions and we get into the hardcore topics, the actual subject of our group, the first thing that I wanted to discuss with the group is a collaboration of the different cultures and diversities that are amongst criminals who are currently housed in the state institutions. Not just the max ones, not just Dodge, the reception prison, but every institution. The mediums, the minimum institution, the maxes, the correctional setting, or the correctional centers, the John Burke Center, where guys get released and they go do work and then they come back at night. Every single aspect within the Wisconsin correctional setting, I think would be beneficial to take a look at when discussing this sort of group. The next thing, or when talking about the different cultures, I would like, maybe have a board up front and, me as the leader stand there with a pen and just say, okay, let's shout out the different diversities or the different cultures, the different things that we see in the institution or in the correctional setting. That should raise awareness. That's something that we should, make ourselves familiar with, educate ourselves about. Hopefully at this time the group will start participating. We'll have other members, one yell African Americans, the other one yell, Caucasians, Eastern descent, the Hmongs, the Asians, Native Americans, Hispanics, those who are of mixed descents, a black father and a white mother, or Chinese, or whatever, all the different cultures that you see within the institutional setting. The next main topic that I would like to probably discuss with the group is to present different pros and cons of intermingling the different cultures and diversities in the general population setting in the institutions. What are some pros that can come out of this? Again, as a group, work together, make a list, write everything down that is something that could be useful to us. Is this something that's worth having more further discussions about? Is this something that we can see help benefit us as staff? When I talk pros and cons, I'm not just talking about pros and cons for the inmates. I'm also talking as far as staff members. Many of us, work in a setting where there's not a whole lot of other people around. Our safety is at jeopardy every single day. Is this something that education and knowledge to us as staff members will put us in a higher position should we see some warning signs of, like a gang starting to be together or somebody else being bullied or that sort of thing. When talking about the pros and cons, I would like to discuss different issues that might come up. Discrimination, not just amongst the staff, but also in our group. Race and sex. Granted, all the institutions that I'm discussing are male institutions. I believe we should maybe possibly talk about the female institution, which is Techeetah, located in Techeetah by Fond du Lac, the only female institution in the state of Wisconsin. However, at this point, I don't think, with it being the first group, we are really to that point yet. The main objective here, like I said, is to outline the different things for future meetings. When talking about sex, I'm talking about bisexual and transgender. I can see some ethical questions amongst group members coming up during this time. There has been some talk about transgender criminals in the institutions and the legality of taxpayers paying for hormone pills and sex change surgeries and this sort of thing. I could see something like this coming up in conversation in this group. At that time, as a leader, I think it would be important for me to stress to the group, however, these are our personal issues. Yes, it's in the news, it's out there for the public to know. there's people discussing this, but as this group goes, we're just discussing the different cultures at this point, and how they can play in effect to our safety, the safety of other inmates, and the criminal justice setting as a whole. It's definitely something that should be looked at, and it should be something that's talked about. However, I think as a leader, I would need to remind the group members that we need to keep our personal feelings surrounding some of these topics left at home. We are doing this group meeting for the better good, pretty much. The next topic that I would want to talk is about the gangs and the inner circle groups. There is a fully fledged staff, for my knowledge, at every institution who deals just with gangs. I feel it's important for this person or these types of people to be in our group to discuss the different cultures and the diversities and the gangs and how they all play a part with each other. That alone in itself could be a whole group meeting, a whole group counseling session, discussing how those play a part with each other. I feel it's important to get the collaboration and the use of educational tools from the gang coordinator to kind of present them during this group session, to talk about them and their importance. I think it'd be also important to talk about the protection of inmates who are victims of gang violence. Criminals are victims as well, and even the possible potential victims in the criminal justice setting. You could be locked up, but still be a victim of gang violence in the prison system. That's something that, we should be aware of as well. The other thing that I would like to probably talk about is the mentally ill criminals in the general population. Is it important to educate the inmates in general population, inmates in general, about those who are suffering from mentally ill? Is it important for us to even take that extra step to explain to the criminals, inmates, that there are going to be people who have mentally ill issues in their housing unit, in general population? Is it important for us to look at how many inmates are mentally ill in general population? These are all different issues that I think is important when holding our group, to really create an outline for future monthly meetings, to be able to create awareness of the differences amongst the diverse and multicultural inmate population. There is a huge group of different people that come into the institution every day. Just a little fun fact. In the month of March, Dodge Correctional Institution received 630 new inmates that we processed in 30 days. If you break it down, it's about an average of 30 inmates a day that come through the institution as new admits, and this is Dodge, the reception prison. Part of the intake process, part of the things that I do is I interview them. Every single prisoner gets interviewed by me. In this process, I do ask them their race and their ethnicity backgrounds. I don't really touch too much into the gang portion of it, or the mentally ill part of it. I am made aware if clinical gets called down because there's been issues with this person in the past. I think it's very important to take a look at these types of questions and see what's going on in our criminal justice system in the prison setting. As a conclusion to our group, I think I would want to first begin to thank everybody in the group for participating, for coming to the group with an open mind, to continuing having an open mind during this group setting, and just kind of think about, is there really a need for further exploration of these topics? Why would there be a need? If it is it something that we can do during work hours, not costing the taxpayers a whole lot of money, but keeping ourselves and the inmates in our institution safe? How could situations like this cause more harm than good if not addressed? what are the pros and cons of intermingling different cultures and diversities? If we do not educate ourselves on this, could there be a really horrible incident that takes place that we could have prevented at some time? Also, take a look at the different outside resources that are available within our communities. Different presentations that we can provide to the inmates, different presentations that we can provide to the staff, literature, that sort of thing. The last thing I would do is I'd go around in a circle, kind of give final thoughts, let everybody, just kind of give that one last thing that their thoughts were about the group setting, about our meeting in general and the topics that we discussed. Finally, I think the last thing that I would do is, if everybody is in agreement, of course, with the go-ahead of the importance of continuing a group like this and having future meetings and seeing the need to educate inmates, educate staff, educate ourselves on what the diversity is. What are the different cultures that come in? How do those different cultures play in rehabilitating these offenders? That's something that we didn't even discuss in this group, but can lead to future discussions. Are these offenders from different cultures, going to rehabilitate the same as others with the same content or structure of us teaching them how to become a better member of society on the outside? So I would set a tentative date for future meetings, at least one. Like I said, as long as everybody is in agreement with it. Again, I would thank everybody for attending the group, and I believe discussion within our group probably was very high key. I believe I probably had a good screening selection of participants that would want to interact. It's hard for me to display reflective listening and sensitivity throughout my group facilitation. However, I would like to believe that I would keep an open mind, and especially in some of those sketchy settings, where we talk about discrimination and sex, the transgender, the bisexual, that we as a whole, the whole group, would keep an open mind, and know what is right for the better good of everybody. I believe that after having a group like this, that my expected outcome would have been achieved. I feel that after presenting some of the issues and some of the topics and some of the different situations at hand, others would also feel that it's important to continue to have a group that talks about the diverse cultures and the different diversities among the inmate population in the institution. Some of the questions that I think might be posed by some of the group members to me is, why do I find this important? Or how can we, as just a select few people, help make a difference in this big picture of an issue? The diversity among the institution is huge. There's huge numbers of inmates, criminals, who are currently housed either in prison settings, within the Department of Corrections, in a whole, either in the community or in the institutions. How can we as a small team actually make a difference? I think that would be a really important question to ask ourselves. So hopefully I was able to present my case well, and I look forward to having more group meetings such as this. Thank you.